Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pundit's Pundit. My name is Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Madmouth. Glad to have you with us tonight. And we bring back the regular host of the show, Denzel Snipes, who did a little bit of work out in Las Vegas. My goodness, welcome back to the big show. Denzel, I did my best to hold down the fort, but guess what? You get to do it now.
Hey, sure appreciate it, man. I had a blast out there in Las Vegas. Everybody, if you follow me on social media, particularly on Instagram and Facebook, you can see more than your share of all the interviews I took, as well as the pictures that I took from Bright Light Las Vegas covering the Super Bowl. It was a lot of blast. And here's to New Orleans next year. Meanwhile, I'm back.
Good to see you, buddy.
All right.
It's good to see you back. The man is wearing a sideline and fit and everything, so that's all good here. And just give everybody an overview of what the topics are going to be talked about tonight. We're going to be talking about China canceling the Argentina tour, the chaotic case of Stanley Wilson Jr., Jenny Cavnar, who will be the new primary announcer for the Oakland A's, as well as all of our pundits' points. So with that said, I'll turn over the red carpet and give it to the Mr. Sniper himself. Here's Denzel.
All right. And so let's go ahead and get the festivities started tonight. And our first one is a pretty interesting topic in China and their their conflict with Lionel Messi. So basically, during an exhibition in Hong Kong, Lionel Messi remained on the bench during Inter Miami's game against Hong Kong. And he said, actually, in a report, that it was due to a lingering injury. I guess it didn't fly over too well with the local out there. A sellout crowd of 40,000 attended, and fans booed the more that they didn't see Messi in the game or couldn't see Messi in the game. And it was because of this that the sports authorities in Beijing and Hangzhou they say that they would no longer host the two friendly matches that were actually slated for next month. They see it that they're not going to have because you figure when a superstar comes in town, you're going to drive your prices up and everything. But at least the Chinese, sports authorities out there are saying like, hey, we're not going to have our people pay more of their hard-earned money if you're not going to be there. Now, there's still more to come out on this one because, again, he did say that there was a lingering injury. It's unknown if that was on the report or anything like on any injury reports or anything like that. All that's known is they were unhappy, and it was because of that they're going to cancel the two exhibition games in March. But I wanted to start off with George on this one and get your thoughts about this because, it kind of mirrors, the NBA nowadays, and even, a little ways back then. We covered this a lot on basketballs back in the day. It's like, you go to a Pistons game, but when Kobe and Shaq come to town, those prices climb up a little bit, because people want to come and see Kobe and Shaq. I can say this up front because before I joined the military, I worked as a parking lot attendant at the Toyota Center where the Rockets play. And our busiest nights were concerts, comedy shows, and if the Lakers were in town, at the time it was Kobe and Shaq and everything, and if a Texas rival was in town like San Antonio or Dallas. But yeah, people want to come and see the superstars. And especially if you're a fan of the other team, you want to see your team beat the superstars. So I just want to swing it over to George real quick and get your thoughts about this.
Well, it's an interesting topic because, the worldwide fever they have, everybody does for Messi and his accomplishments. The supposed hamstring injury, yeah, I heard that days later he did suit up against Japan. The thing is that what they're doing is they're trying to mix politics and sports, and they do it so often, especially China and Russia. We know that over the years. Oh my gosh, I remember Scott wrote a story. I wrote a story about the boycott, the Olympic boycott back in the Olympics back in 80 and 84 in Los Angeles. And now, I just dislike when this happens. Now, if he was legitimately okay to play and faked an injury, again, I can see fans being upset. They don't get a chance to see him that often. But to go on and do a drastic thing like cancel a couple of upcoming friendlies, I don't think so. I mean, we've had those friendlies in Michigan before. The Tigers baseball team has hosted them. I know the Wolverines at U of M Stadium have hosted them. And trust me, they go on with whoever the team brings, obviously, to play in those. If one guy is missing or two big names, they don't cancel them. They don't offer the fans a refund. They still play them. So I think China's doing a little bit nitpicking, and they're trying to bring politics into this. And they started talking about a British rule over the Falkland Islands, one of the social media tags that I saw, and it's just getting to be too much. Now, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I don't know for sure if he's actually a legit injury or not. But for him to miss that game, I'm sure there's disappointment. But he could have still very well been an integral part of the upcoming friendlies, like you said, Denzel, that they are threatening to cancel.
Yeah, and you know what? I had a feeling, and we try to avoid using the P word on this show, but that was in my line of thought. Also, is I wonder if it was just that. If and okay, I'm not trying to push any conspiracy theories or anything, but I wonder if he was told to sit out by certain people. But let's swing it over to Jacob real fast and get your thoughts about. And Jacob's guys, he's smiling like a Cheshire cat. Because I know.
Is it the P word like I give to LeBron, or is
Something
it the
like
politics?
Yeah.
Well, before Jacob gets his opinion, though, he's got a responsibility on the show to go to the chat room. So go ahead, Jacob.
Okay, go Panthers.
Josh,
what's going on, Snipe?
Hey, Josh, what's going on?
Got a fan out there, Snipe. All right, and
Yeah.
kneecap fighting. Oh, he's always going to get his shot
Kyle,
in.
oh God, can we get to blame those DC first play calling rules? Thank you very much.
All right, go ahead. You may proceed, but we cannot ignore the chat room.
Definitely.
Number one.
No, the big thing we can say with something like this is remember 19. I'm going to say this, Denzel, because you'll understand this reference. Remember 1995 and North Korea with WCW.
Yes,
193,000 people watched that watched that whole show. But here's the thing: they're all brought there by gunpoint.
Yeah, they were.
This is probably the same kind of thing with China too, and this was more along. They're saying, "Oh, they don't want to pay their hard-earned money." How many really were doing that? How much of this are irritating? How much of this is irritating China, and China just giving up on it?
Now you mentioned. Now you mentioned how many really were doing that. Keep in mind that with any of the most infamous governments, throughout history that we all learned about in school, though even those governments had their few loyalists.
And that's very, very true. Plenty of them. But here's the thing with Messi, though, is remember what that contract was with Inter Miami. All those, everything business-wise. There's not a ton of things with gameplay. There's a lot of money that he can make from Apple subscriptions. He can make this, that. Not a lot in gameplay. He did play, and Inter Miami won basically everything when he was there. But the biggest thing about something like that is look at the age that he is right now. He's going to save himself for a certain time. He's going to probably play politics. He's probably going to do all of this because of his age. He's not going to have much longer, and he's going to have ownership of Inter Miami soon. After he's done, he's probably going to have ownership of 2 or 3 other teams also. So a lot of this by itself, playing politics, absolutely he probably is because this is going to be he's going to be, what, 39, 38, 39?
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah,
36. 36.
Okay, he's 36, yeah. Okay, 36. You want to know what this is? Let's just say he lives to 80. He's going to have 44 more years of doing this. That means you live longer than your game, playing the political game, playing business game, playing all that. The athletic game, whether we like it or not, the athletic game is so limited. So I'm not saying how smart it is or anything like that. It's what you have to do, though, sometimes, especially if the money's on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just real crazy how whenever you have a sporting event with a controversial government, you remember what was it back in? Hey, what year did the crossover baseball game happen? It was like the first Major League Baseball game ever played in Cuba, and Castro was in attendance.
What was that?
That was like 2012 or something like that.
Yeah, I believe the Tampa Bay Rays played in it too, didn't they? I'm trying to remember if it was the son that was in. I know
you remember what I'm talking about, Scott? Yeah.
I thought
I
it was
believe
11.
that's when the Tampa Bay Rays played.
Obama was there.
That was interesting. So I don't know the year. I want to assume it's like inside of 10 years at all.
Yeah, it was in like the early 2010s. But yeah, whenever you have sporting events inside of a controversial country with a controversial government,
Right.
it's always stuff like this that's going to be thrown around, and that's not the type of agenda, ladies and gentlemen, that we push on the show. We try to see things from all angles. I know I was taught this in the military, but I kind of take it with me in life, is to see everything six-sided. And when you see everything six-sided, you learn how to think outside the box and look everywhere and not get tunnel vision, because tunnel vision can be deadly. But I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this. Your thoughts on Messi sitting out, and overall, what you take on it?
Well, in layman's term, what you're really taught to do is be objective, Denzel. That's what we're supposed to do in this business anyways, look at it both ways. So and then coming up with an opinion based on facts. That's one of the things I mentioned in my book, Lessons from the Microphone. Here's what you have. I believe, if I remember reading correctly, that they were giving 50% of the money back, for the lack of time that he played. So there was some money transacted. Now, I will say this about Inter Miami, and I've covered their games. I haven't done anything in the Messi regime. That's not to say I won't this year, depending on what my schedule is, because it is demanding. But, soccer compared to other sports, they play this game here from February all the way until November. So you're talking 9 or 10 months. I'm estimating, and I could be wrong, that Messi has about a 2-year shelf life here. He's got this year, and then they're building a new stadium down in Miami. So call it the house that Messi finally got built, because they've been trying to get that stadium built, and now they need him to draw and put people in the stands, and they play a dry pink stadium where they're going to, which is like 18, 19,000, and they're going to get a higher ticket dollar. So Inter Miami did not make the playoffs last year. Once Messi got there, things started to turn around, but it was a little bit too little too late.
Right.
So I'm actually going to give Inter Miami the benefit of the doubt on this one, that, there's an awful lot of money on the line. You didn't make the playoffs. You're moving into a new stadium, and you need to put people in your arena, let alone the MLS, in addition to the things you said. So, yeah, I realize that Argentina was upset. They were probably marketing it, charging a lot of money for it. And the one thing that has destroyed the NBA is load management. Yeah. And the last thing you want to do is take a friendly and turn it into an unfriendly, and because then all of a sudden it becomes a problem and it's hard to schedule games. Now, as I understand, I think Inter Miami went about 1-5 on their international tour, but they went 1-5. So there's a gray area that you have here with everything, but I can see both sides where naturally, China would be upset about it, because after all, you're looking at obviously one of the greatest players that have ever played the game. But then you have to look at Inter Miami's side as well, that you can't risk an injury with a guy who's getting a lot older. So I can see both ways. Let me point out a couple things before we go on to topic number 2. All right, number 1, Pundit's being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Just go ahead and participate in the chat room. That's one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website's www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes producing the show. She's a jack of all trades and master of them all as well. I should also point out, that I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, which entails simply old school media versus new school media. It's available on Kindle and Amazon. What's good about the book is if you're new to the industry, you can learn about how it was and how to stay in it. And if you've been around for a while, then you can realize, what it was like when a lot of people like George and I got started. So everybody can gain something from that book. But getting back on point, want to make sure we got this out once, minimum 2 times, that I can see both sides. I really can. I can see the frustration from China, But I also understand what Inter Miami has to do, and I totally have no problem with what Inter Miami's do, resting their best player because they have a season to prepare for.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Because if someone gets injured, they kind of want to take it easy because if someone gets injured during the exhibition and they can't go for the season, now you got an even bigger issue. But
Yeah.
we'll wrap this topic up and go on to our next one. And this one here actually is pretty tragic, and that's the chaotic case of Stanley Wilson Jr. So, cornerback Stanley Wilson Jr., he was drafted in the third round in the 2005 NFL draft. He played 3 seasons. He actually suffered from mental issues. He was once shot during a break-in 2016. He survived that incident. Unfortunately, he died on the 1st of February last year of pulmonary thromboembolism, and he is one of at least 345 NFL players diagnosed with CTE. This is in addition to the condition that he had, that he was bipolar, and a number of other things. And it's just, you know, we always stress the mental health thing and such. And one thing about, us men, and sometimes when we go through it, and the whole mental health issues and what, Stanley Wilson Jr. went through, it doesn't help anything at all. And then the fact that he got CTE and everything. Now, he didn't take his own life or anything. It was health related issues. He died young. He was 40. His father actually was a running back in the NFL. Pretty interesting. But yeah, definitely want to start off with Jacob with this one. And and I'm curious the reason why you chose Stanley Wilson Jr. and also your overall take, because you're talking about a guy that was talented. He wasn't given that long of a shot in the NFL, and man, it's just like he had too many minuses in front of him than pluses. Go ahead, Jacob.
I chose him because his parents are also suing the jail that he found dead in.
They are. That is true. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the thing I have to say something. I'm just going to. This is the one thing I want to know about all this. Like, we see CTE and everything. I've been here in Atlanta 19 years, and like, I've met Billy White Shoes Johnson. I've known. I've run into Mike Ken from the Atlanta Falcons. He's in our bar up over the thing, the Bears bar. He comes around there sometimes. Good guy, by the way. But I meet these. I've met about 5 or 6 others. I don't. Maybe they're outside of the realm, but I don't see anything outside. Maybe a couple of bum knees. You know what I'm saying? They are limping around a little bit, just like you would if you're in the NFL. Especially Mike Ken, 17 years. So it's like, and he was 6'7", so you can imagine that. But there's clear as day, every big time deal, and it's like, I have to wonder, how do certain guys avoid the CTE? Because not everyone in the NFL's gotten CTE, or maybe they're not diagnosed, or a lot of them have left and then gotten business deals. They've done all this type of thing. How many times did Roger Staubach get murdered in the pocket?
Yeah.
And he got murdered in the pocket, and enormous real estate mogul. Enormous. I mean, it's like every big time deal like that. They did for 501c3s, did all that kind of stuff. We're looking at these things. But then you also look at some of the ones from Pittsburgh, like Mike Webster, for instance, and what happened with him. And it's like, these are the things I'm asking. How did it feels like COVID. How does it hit some but not others?
True.
How did this thing? Was there ones that were smarter about it? Maybe they didn't put their head down as much? Were there ones that played the business side, like we talked about in this last thing? They played the business side and have to understand. Those are the ones you might call I was making a joke about LeBron, but are they the ones making that whole deal? Are they doing it?
Right.
Are they making a business decision and coming out of it the best way possible? I love the tough guy, but is being the tough guy 24/7 destroying everybody? Because it's like, or it's being smarter the best, which to me, I've said this in my whole adult life. It's the best way. Be tough when you need, but be smart. And it's like, you have to wonder, any of these ones that have gotten CTE, is it almost like the football version of John Daly, the golfer? You know what I mean? It's like you're just going try to go through a wall at all times. And those are what makes me think about that. And what happened with Stanley Wilson. They're suing the jail. That jail has just like with a lot of others, that jail has the toughest thing possible. It's like in one case, you are being watched now by the internet and how abusive you were or how much you took care of them or you did whatever. But at the same time, he's been caught and arrested 4 times for trying to break into houses naked.
Yeah.
At some point, do you lose that's the thing about police. You know very well that their impulses would get the best of them at times, especially if someone does try to assault them or something. You don't know what to do. I mean, I've always said there's no way I'd ever want that job because you don't know. You just don't. You don't want to have to be in that situation.
All right, let me go to the chat room real quick, okay? I want to stay with it. I'll go ahead and control it at the moment. Joshua Bernstein, thanks for being a part of the show. Need to get Blake Lozinski on the show, no problem. If that's the case, why don't we just put him on the show because Joshua said so. All right, let's keep it going here. All right. What's going on? There he is. He's on the show. But now we have some breaking news from Candy Ebling, who's occupying Iowa's Caitlin Clark breaks the NCAA.
Oh, she did it.
She did it.
All right.
Breaking news here on Pundit. We don't ignore what's going on. We tell you what's on our mind and everything. Good job, Candy, for digging up that information. I'm sure there's a lot of fans out there that are interested, and now they can find it out here. We don't miss a beat. All right. Anything else you want to say about that, Jacob, or are you pretty much done with
now? All good.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Denzel. I'll run this thing here through for you. Yeah, let's take your and she did it in the first quarter. Okay, very good. So, all right. So go ahead, Denzel. Take over the lead on Stanley Wilson and continue it rolling.
Well, I was going to say you could, keep Scott on the screen because I was going to go to him next. But no, all interesting points coming from Jacob. And you talk about a troubled man. He got a shot in the NFL and just bad break after bad break. But his parents suing the correctional facility where they found him in, and hopefully that turns out the way that they needed to. But this also is just more. It's more awareness of what's going on post football career because his career only lasted until 2007. So he's had a good stretch of this long post career with all these troubles and such. But I want to swing it back to Scott and get your thoughts about the late Stanley Wilson Jr.
Well, listen, if you ever had a head injury, it stinks. I've had a few myself, and I'm in the process of seeing a neurologist, and I don't have any answers for the fact that I'm still in post-concussion syndrome after a few falls. So if I'm having problems, what about football players, boxers, and all that? Nobody knows exactly what can happen with a head injury. We saw the Junior Seau killed himself, right? And here's a guy who's unquestionably a Hall of Famer, and the list goes on and on. I'm not going to sit here and try to dig up one player after another who went off the deep end. But Stanley Wilson Jr. is like everybody else on the planet. If you get a head injury, the body and the mind react differently. And it's unfortunate that these are the types of things that lead to that particular outcome. It just really is. And there's no way to pre-diagnose CTE. You can only anticipate what the symptoms are. And then all of that is done after the individual has passed away to find out what you already suspected you knew that that individual had CTE. So it is unfortunate for Stanley Wilson Jr., as well as anybody that runs across a head injury. But what can you do? The human body works its ways in matters that nobody can figure out. But when you're dealing with high contact injury, listen, I had the great pleasure of writing a story on Muhammad Ali many years ago when I was a lot younger, and he was at the beginning of his Parkinson's syndrome. Of course, now, rest in peace, Muhammad Ali gave me a thrill of a lifetime spending a week with the champ. And the list goes on and on with boxing and anything. I can only imagine how many CTE cases you have in hockey. I don't think you'll have as many in basketball and baseball, but between hockey, football, and boxing, and eventually UFC is going to have them too over the course of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, I mean, anything which is a high contact, violent sport's going to get them. Unfortunately, Stanley Wilson is just the latest in a long line of individuals that suffer this unfortunate fate.
You know, Another sport that I'm surprised that it hasn't reached yet, even though they wear helmets, but still the crashes are violent, is NASCAR. I'm surprised it hasn't hit some of them yet. Maybe
Yeah, but
not
you know
as
what?
frequent. I'm saying, go ahead, because you watched a lot more NASCAR than I have.
Well, that's a good point. I don't think it's going to hit NASCAR as much, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because thanks to Russell Branham, who by the way is in my book, I love making book references. And I had an opportunity to drive several laps around the Homestead Miami Speedway. And I'm going to tell you, between that Hans device, which really straps you in there really, really good to avoid such head trauma. We also saw what happened to Dale Earnhardt Sr. at the Daytona 500 when he lost his life. Let me tell you, they strap you in there, and the equipment's unbelievable. So I'm not surprised it hasn't hit NASCAR as much. It might to some extent, but you're well protected in that stock car. Okay. I get your point, Denzel. I really do. But I'm not as surprised there as I am some of the other ones, but I do get your point.
Now, see, I didn't know it because, whenever you see
things, my gosh, I'm telling you. Yeah. I mean, you feel like, you have a 36 waist-side. If I ever had wearing one of those suits, you'd be up to 46, 56 if you had to put pants around that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it looks like you are protected pretty. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that, you get like strapped in and everything. I just didn't know to what degree. And let's face it, the general audience, whenever they see a crash out there, they see a car crash. They see that car literally rolling like a wheel down the track, and it's like, wow.
They do, but the kicker, Denzel, is that Hans device is what it is. The way they've got you strapped in there where there's not a lot of head movement. And that's the one thing most people that are on the outside are unaware of. But I understand. I mean, we all talk about the nature and the severity of the crash, which I understand. Okay. But the Hans device and some of the way that they've altered the equipment to make it safe for the drivers are a lot, unless you've actually been involved and you've seen it firsthand. Most people won't realize it unless you've talked to drivers, you've talked to managers and anybody, old drivers as well as announcers. They'll tell you the same thing. And having gotten the opportunity to drive around the track, I had a hard time getting out of that stock car. I thought they were going to need a forklift to get me out of there or whatever. Kidding with you. But it was an unbelievable experience. But I see your point. Anytime you have a significant crash or something like that. So go ahead.
No, absolutely. And the last thing I want to round this out with George, and get your thoughts about Stanley Wilson Jr. He played for y'all's Lions and everything, and you talk about a very troubled individual. He did the best that he could, while he was in the league and everything, and then obviously post career. Didn't go so well and obviously had a tragic ending. So just want to get your thoughts on that, George. What do you got?
Well, a couple things here I wanted to talk about. The first one is the one that Jacob, my partner down there, suggested, which is so true. And I've thought about this so many times. You see some of the football players and they're fine. I mean, Joe Schmidt, a Hall of Fame linebacker for the Detroit Lions, who took enough bruises and hits and everything else for all those years, is 90 plus years old. And of course, his career is winding down. A former Lions coach, too, by the way. But he seems to be fine. So there's some things. Joe Montana, he looks fine. I know he's got new business ventures and stuff like that and was at the Super Bowl. You see guys come back. Larry Zonko was on the field, I saw. That was really nice. And of course, Elway with the trophy presentation. But the point is a good one that Jacob made, is that somehow a sport like this affects people in different ways. If they're not able to recover, though, it ends up in sometimes tragedy or early loss of life. And I think this is the situation we're looking at with Stanley Wilson, drafted by the Lions in the third round in 2005. He was a defensive backfield, and that was not a great career that he had. Obviously, like you said, Den's, his active days. Well, actually, he played in an exhibition game in 2008, but couldn't make the team. He's had all kinds of things happen, and obviously, there's some things going on here. But one of the things that we need, and I think especially for the athletes, is the fact that we need assistance when they have situations, either mental situations or obviously in this case, he had some health issues as well, very serious health issues. And it's tragic indeed if that death occurred because of some wrongdoing by the LA County law enforcement that had him behind bars. But that being said, it was a number of years that things were going bad for this fella. You talked about him being in the nude and breaking into mansions out in California and scaring people. He got shot in Portland once back in 2016 after he attempted break in. He got shot in the abdomen by the homeowner. But these are serious things, and it seems to happen more frequently with football players, and like you said, Scott, the boxing world especially too. And there's no doubt that these people are crying and wanting help. And unfortunately, in some states, we don't give the help and the assistance that they need. We had a governor here in Michigan. I'm not going to mention his name, but he locked the doors of so many mental institutions in the state. It was just a sad, ridiculous decision he made. And all these people had to go out literally on the street in Michigan, but many years ago. But we can't have this. I mean, we have to take care of one another. We have to help these athletes, or whatever, however you got it, even if it wasn't playing sports. There's this is the cry for help that I'm hearing in this whole situation, Denzel.
It is, and of course, incidents like this, because you got to think at least 345 NFL players diagnosed with CTE, and him being one of them. Three, of course, we all know one is one too many, but when you got 345, that is more than worthy of raising awareness. So hopefully, with his parents, that lawsuit turns out the way that they needed to once again. And we're gonna go on to our last and final topic, and that is Jenny Cavnar, the case of Jenny Cavnar, who made history as being the first female MLB full-time play-by-play announcer. So she was hired by the Oakland A's, and her previous post was pre and post game show host for the Colorado Rockies for 12 years. And she also served as a backup announcer. Actually, in April of 2018, she became officially, serving in a backup role, the first woman to call a game since 1993. So it's no doubt that this was an obvious choice. You take somebody who has obviously done it before, and you give them a shot at it full time. The woman knows what she's doing. She's been on the air tons of times as a show host, and obviously as an announcer. And once again, and we talked a lot about the first female owner in MLB. What was it from the Miami Marlins? You know what I'm talking about, Scott.
Well,
She wasn't the first female owner, but
well, general manager Kim Ng.
General manager Kim Ng. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Let's go ahead quickly though, Denzel, to the chat room. A friend of the show, James Burgess, comes on, and we interrupt this conversation for a James Burgess restaurant friend of the show. Classic one, talks about Mike Webster, Hall of Fame center for the Iron Curtain Steelers. Yeah, he definitely, NFL makes enough money to look after guys on the down and out. Very good.
We'll talk about that another day. But Ditka also did that for years too.
Yep.
Right. It's certainly worth mentioning here since we're on topic. Go back to Jenny. Thanks, James. Always great to hear from you. And of course, Jeremy. Ballrick will be on later on tonight. I'll get to that once I wrap up as we get closer to wrap up. Go ahead though about Jen.
All right, but yes, obviously you talk about females in sports making history and everything. We've had female owners before. We've had the Marge Shots of the world, the Georgia Frontiers, the Kim Ings. So this right here definitely a step in the right direction and gives women out there a hope that hey, they can go out there and call games too. Over the course of the last few years, we've seen female coaches in the NFL break ground. We've seen female coaches in the NBA. We've seen female referees. So it's not like it was 30 years ago or even 10 years ago. So with that being said, I'm going to start off. We'll go in reverse order here. We'll start off with George and get your thoughts about Jenny Cavnar, first female MLB full-time play-by-play announcer. Go ahead.
Yeah, congratulations to Jenny. Having covered baseball for a good many years, I mean, let's just face it, it's been predominantly a male sport, and things have finally broken loose a little bit, if lack of a better term, and the female announcers are getting an opportunity now. Of course, Susie was with the New York Yankees for quite a long time and did a really good job over there. And now Jenny with the team that seems to get black-eyed and beat up all the time, the Oakland Athletics, for all their off-the-field problems and lack of fan interest. And, are they moving? Are they not moving? She's got a tough situation there, but I'm sure she'll do a good job. I think that when I did my research last March on a Saturday afternoon, the Mariners topped the Rockies 4-2 at Cactus League game, and they had an all-woman broadcast, and it was great. Jenny was part of that. Jenny was with the Rockies at the time. Angie Mentink of the Mariners, Jen Mueller of the Mariners, and Julia Morales of the Astros were the on-air voices for play-by-play, announcing, analysts, and sideline reporters. And that was a very great thing that they did. And then a couple years earlier than that, in 2021, during a regular season game between the Rays and the Orioles, you had Heidi Watley, Lauren Gardner, Melanie Newman, Alana Rizzo, and Sarah Langs composing an all-female broadcast too. Well, you want to get to a situation where, we're not just mentioning these names. Oh, this is historical. But rather the opportunity is there for the ladies to be able to do it full time or on a situational basis that they agree to, like 50 games a year or whatever she works out with the ball club. Danielle has done a great job here in Detroit with the Red Wings and the Detroit Tigers. They've added her as an analyst for both the teams, the home games of the Red Wings and the Tigers, respectively. Daniela Bruce has done a really good job. And of course, Natalie Kerwin, that works with our friend Trevor Thompson on the sidelines for hockey and for baseball here, as Scott knows on Bally Sports. She does a great job too. So we've had a lot of females involved. Detroit's had a share of many of them that have been anchors and gone on to big things here in nationally. And I think that it's only a matter of time, like you said before, we're going to see this as more of a regular thing, especially in Major League Baseball. I mean, look at the great women's teams we had, the girls that played way back when, and all that great baseball they played, and movies were made, and they got put into the Hall of Fame. And baseball and is not just a man's sport. Obviously, it's men and women, and I'm happy to see it. And I wish Jenny good luck and success.
Absolutely. Great breakdown on that one. Because there's one thing you do love to see is evolution in anything in sports. And I want to swing it down to Jacob and get your thoughts about Jenny Havner making history, first full-time play-by-play announcer in Major League Baseball.
It's great that the old boys clubs finally got the women joining the fun. Yep. Here's the thing. Just don't listen to social media and the people that aren't used to the thing. Just don't listen to them, because they're going to have their opinions based on them. They don't have it on anything. Think of it, the Cubs I think Cubs were one of the first teams to get them. The women. I think Cubs were. And it's like, good for them. But here's the thing. We didn't hear about all these women because they weren't advertised. Kim Ng was with the White Sox since 1990. You brought up Kim Ng earlier. She was with them since. I mean, a lot of these women have been there. See, you've heard me for ages with this show. I'll bet this show is. I mean, I haven't even made count of this show. How many shows we had? Has to be combined has to be 300 to 500 by now. But whatever. But you know how many times I've said that I've been pro women's sports completely. The only thing I've ever said is I don't want the physical things getting into the way of the things. They're different physically. But I've never gone against the women's side. Good for them. Are you good is the only thing I ask. Mm-hmm. And are you good? Do you work just as hard as the men? And here's the deal also. This isn't the times that we grew up in, and you know what I'm talking about, George and Scott. This isn't the times where you go, what inning is it in hockey? Like the women used to do. Like there was the joke about that. It's the same as when Al Bundy made fun of the French and the Japanese cars. That's 1987. It's like everything changes. Everything's different. Everything's different. And it's like we have to be able to know that and understand that. And for one thing, I'm in my own little world here. I'm just getting the feeling the more I want to see this world here, just do this type of thing, the more I want to stay off social media. because it feels like it is so many people that just will not move forward. And then they bring you their opinion. And I'm going to have something about that in my the pundit points tonight. But I was just going to bring something like this. But I just wanted to bring that up. Congratulations to her.
Yep, absolutely. And it's all about, are you good enough? Just like Jacob said. And if you do work as hard as the guys and everything. And Jeremy brought up a good point, the old boys club is letting them in. I actually would go as far as saying, and this is just me, but the reason why it's being let in, a big reason, is because the old boys club is dying out. But that's just me. Last but not least, a man who does broadcasting himself, Scott Morgan. What do you got on this one? Woman making history, first female MLB play-by-play announcer.
Well, I mean, Kim Meeting is out, but Rachel Belkovic is in running the farm system here in Miami, number one. Rachel was actually the manager for the Tampa Tarpons last couple of years. We have a great reporter in Jessica Blaylock, who I've known for a lot of years, not only when she covered the Florida Panthers, but the Marlins as well. But I'm going to give you a name to watch out for. And you heard it here on Pundit's Pundit, okay? She played softball, and she was really good at it. Don't have the numbers with her. Don't really care. It's not relevant. And I've seen her in the broadcast booth from time to time filling in. I'm going to mention it here on Pundit's Pundit, first time that many of you have heard it, except maybe Josh Bernstein, who lives here. But a lady who I really like a lot as a friend, colleague, and whatever, her name is Kelly Sacco. S-A-C-O, Kelly Sacco. This woman knows a lot about baseball. She's great. Her interviews are really good. Appearance-wise, she's fantastic, but there's more to her than her appearance. This woman knows a lot of baseball. So while a lot of you people out there have heard a lot of the obvious ones, including my panel, watch out for the name Kelly Sacco, Kellysacco. She will hit it out of the park eventually. Probably the only reason she doesn't hit it out now is she's playing for an organization which unfortunately hasn't done a lot of winning over the last several years. But at some point or another, she's going to get out there, and then we'll be talking about Kelly Sacco down the road.
Right.
I love working with her. She's great at the park. We have a good working relationship, but that's a name to watch out for. I'm happy for a lot of the women that get the opportunity. And as for Jennifer Cavnar, well, I wouldn't buy a house in Oakland, okay? And I'm not sure where you're going to be for the next 3 years either, unless they decide to go to Vegas. Who knows, you might be in Utah. We don't know where you're going to be. But, Jen, maybe you'll do something that most people aren't able to do these days. Make the Oakland A's interesting.
Hey, there you go. Absolutely. And I mean, as far as an organization goes, that's been the hiring of Jenny Cavnar. It's probably been a lone bright spot in the last, I don't know, maybe 2-3 seasons. But that is our topic wrap up. And for Pundit's Point, I'm going to swing it to the man himself, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth. Oh, we got a comment from James Burgess.
Well, go ahead. You can read the comment, then I'll take over. Go ahead.
It says Jackie Mitchell struck out Babe Ruth and Gehrig in a spring training game. If the next man in Realm comes along in the NHL, who cares if you can win? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but Jackie did something. Manon Rayon got her butt kicked there. So it's like, but Jackie is Jackie has the Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. But Manon Rayon got absolutely clobbered as a goalie.
All right, well, let's get over to Pundit's Point. Bear in mind, at the top of the hour, or around 9:15, 9:30, we're going to have Fire Up. George Eichhorn gets double duty tonight. So I want to make sure we get him out on time. I'm going to lead off myself with my Pundit's Points. I have 1.5, really, or 2. First of all, this Saturday's and Sunday is going to be neat for me. You're driving up to Tampa. Why am I driving up to Tampa? Well, I'm going back to one of my homes. One of them is the University of South Florida. But why am I going up there? Okay. Florida Atlantic University and University of South Florida are going to be playing on ESPN on Sunday at noon Eastern time. But you know what's so good about the USF Sundome? They have a named after a beer place. If the beer place wants to pay all of us the money, I'll talk about it. To me, it's a USF Sundome. The USF Sundome, to me, is going to be sold out, 10,000 strong. And it's my alma mater, and it's a place where I got my degree. my BA degree in communication, and it'll be the first time I've been in that building for over 30 years. I never thought that when I looked at this game on the schedule, it would have NCAA tournament implications, but this one's going to have them. Mark my word. The FAU Owls under Dusty May, I know USF hired a coach out of Kennesaw State. I don't know the name off the top of my head. I'm not going to even try to pronounce it. I think I know what it is. Watch out come Sunday. You're going to see a one heck of an in-state rival here, which is in the American Athletic Conference, and FAU just joined USF. You know, the last I remember seeing Lee Rose there back when I was there from 84, 85, and 86 out there, and we were mediocre. We were lucky to get in the NCAA NIT tournament thanks to George Steinbrenner. But I'm telling you, Sunday will be electric. The Motor City Madmouth is going back to his alma mater to see a basketball game, which is going to be unbelievable. And the last one I saw with FAU against North Texas was unbelievable. It was a buzzer beater for which FAU won. People have asked me, who are you going to root for? The only answer I can give you is I'm not going to lose. But I can only say this. I am wearing my USF ring no matter what, because you can't take that away from me. My other little miniature pundit's point is last night. I want to applaud everybody here on this panel, Candy Ebling, including George, Denzel, Jacob, for doing an incredible tribute to one of my mentors, Peter Ween. And I'm tell you what, I'm going to continue to honor Peter in a lot of ways. And I'm thankful that you guys helped me put together a show last night that's one for the ages and one that we're certainly going to make sure we keep live out there. So between Peter Ween and me going back to USF and the Sun Dome, I'm looking forward to the next. I can't. I've been waiting for this game, but I never thought it would have this much electricity and implications, as Charlie Bradley, a former USF Bull, said. So I know I took a little time on this one, but I am coming to my Tampa home this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And yes, I will wear Motor City Madmouth. And don't know what colors I'm going to wear, but we'll see. I'll take some pictures. Okay. I'm done. All right, Jacob, we got to get you in there a little quicker, just in case I have to watch the sand go down. But I can't really blame you tonight because I get a little bit more long-winded than you did tonight. But for good.
Yeah. Make sure you wear a hat saying "Make Motor City Madmouth quiet again." No,
well, don't worry. If I wanted to talk on Sunday, nobody's going to hear me because it's going to be loud at the Sun Dome.
Yeah. Hey, the Candy, come on for a second. I wanted this part of my thing. This part of my thing reminds me of what we said last night. If Candy's here. All right.
Boop.
Yeah.
I'm here.
You said last night about the whole thing with Kansas City and the whole situation with the guns and everything. And I wanted to bring this because it made me think about this whole thing today. And the only thing I want to say, it does not matter. This is not me giving a thing where people know what my side is or whatever. That's not going to be the moment. This is my thing. And I hope someone sees in 10 years, this show in 10 years, it comes up with an idea. But every time we have a tragedy like this, I implore every single social media owner, I'm talking about the ones that own the platforms, to shut their platforms down for about 2 hours every time we have one of these. Because we are getting out of control with this. Whether it's the pro-gun lobby, whether it's the ones that want to melt them all down, whether it's this violence, whether it's that type of thing. Everybody has too many opinions. And the thing is, these social media companies, it's almost millions of dollars because people just have to come on and give their opinion. And I just wanted to tell that to you because I remember what you said last night about the guns and we did all that thing. The big thing I wanted to bring with something like this is we need to, as a country, take a deep breath. We need to take a deep breath here for ourselves and understand that everything's a lot more complicated than whatever the media ever wants to give us. We need to take a deep breath and we need to start talking to each other, eye to eye. Eye to eye, not online, not typing, not anything. Start shutting the things down for a couple of hours, let the world breathe a little.
You got it.
Anything you want to add to it, or Candy?
last night was emotional for me, and it started with the chick show. We actually had the chick show, and we talked about this because Carrie was at that parade. She had just left before any of the shots rang through, and it just really brought it home. And it's like, and it was the anniversary of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, and I'm just so saddened because what our society has come to and how quickly we are to be angered and how quickly we are to disrespect other people, whether they think like us or not. Like, I might totally have a different opinion than any of one of you, but I respect all your opinions and I want to hear your opinion. You have a right to your opinion. And that's part of what is wrong with society is that we have to be segregated and you are against me because you view something differently. No, you have a right to your opinion. I have a right to my opinion. Which one's right or which one's wrong? There isn't. There necessarily doesn't have to be. We have to be able to work together. Why we can't work together is as for the common good and where we stopped lacking respect for one another. That's what I don't understand. The fact that we go out and we can shoot somebody else and kill them and oh, we don't care. Like, where is the respect there? That is a person that has a life, that has family, that has, and it just saddens me. And so I could go on and on about this topic, and I won't because I know the show is only so long, and I'm only on as a quick guest. But I feel very passionately about this. There's got to be a way that we all come together and work together to stop all the violence.
Okay, let me
Period.
go to the chat room. Let me go to the chat room real quick. I acknowledge everyone if I can do it. Okay, first of all, yeah, you bet, James. Announce your presence with authority. I'll do that. Mark my word, my friend, and Jeremy Ballrick. Okay, let's go ahead and throw him up there. Okay, now most people think opinions are facts, none are right or wrong, but some people think they're always right. Don't worry about it.
That's it right there.
That's
That's
true.
it
All
right
right, so
there.
as we continue the roll here, Denzel, why don't you give us your pundit's point, George Eichhorn, we'll wrap it up, and then we'll do some final contact information. Go ahead, Denzel.
Oh, mine is just really, really quick. Candy, if you would post the nice little photo I sent you earlier on the screen. So I was at opening week just last week at the Allegiant Stadium opening night, excuse me. And that is me with legendary rapper Tech-9. This is a man who has been in hip hop for over 30 years. And let me tell you something about him. Very humble brother, was real awesome, real quick to, take a photo with me and everything and, and talk a little bit. It wasn't very long. But he's one of the last of the real ones out there in the rap game. You talk about a man who has a net worth currently of $35 million and is probably going to clear $40 million this year, not just through rap, but through business ventures as well. We're talking about a guy who never crossed over, never went pop, never sold out, always stayed humble. And just off of that, he's got enough to take care of himself, his family, and generations. The man's 52 years old, doesn't look a day over 29. You kidding me? But here's the shout out to Tech-9. He's a real one. I actually caught him the next day. He was coming in the radio row, and myself and JB and John were headed outside for a breather. And he remembered me from the night before. We slapped hands and everything, and said our hellos and yeah, just a really, really great dude. So shout out to Tech-9. I've been listening to the guy since 2002. It was great finally meeting him.
Okay, George, you have the final pundit's point, and then we'll get to where everybody get a hold of. I know we're conscious of time right now.
Yeah, and I'll make it quick, but the Daytona 500, greatest spectacle in stock car racing, happens this weekend. And once again, the Detroit newspapers are boycotting. By that, I mean they don't have a full-time automotive writer at the Detroit News nor the Detroit Free Press. And how silly that sounds and is. You're the motor capital of the world. You put America on wheels, and you don't have the audacity to have somebody full-time. Oh, yeah, Angelique Changales. Yeah, Dave Gorecki. They covered the Detroit Grand Prix and one race. That's all we got at MIS. And Mike Brunendale retires from the Detroit Free Press, so we're not going to replace him. And the late Charlie Vincent, obviously, as Scott knows, was a great automotive writer as well as our friend Joe Daldale and Vito LaPiccolo. So Detroit, you got your head in the sand, newspapers. You're missing a big thing. There's a lot of us out there that follow motorsports, and you're making a huge mistake. Again, there'll be no Detroit reporters covering the Daytona 500, and that's a shame. Thank you.
Okay. With that said, George, make it really quick. How everybody get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com, on Twitter at SanGSports99, and also follow me on the South Florida Tribune website and the Motor City Tribune, and you'll see my columns there, and I've got a link to my book there, so glad to be part of the show.
Very good, obviously. All right, Denzel, how can people reach you?
Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube, Denzel Snipes on I just lost my train of thought here. Facebook, that's it, Facebook. And also Nelly Nell 13, that's NELLI NEL13 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it this morning. That's how you get a hold of me.
Okay, Jacob, Cliff Notes.
Jake the Pundit, yep, Jake the Pundit on Twitter, Jake the Pundit on TikTok. And 4 shows a week, sometimes 5, and many things to go.
Okay. And lastly, just so everybody knows one more time, Pundit's Pundit being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. All you have to do is participate in the chat room, send your topic ideas, South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, contact me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes producing, and I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, that can be picked up on Kindle and Amazon, old school media versus new school media. So on behalf of Jacob Christner, George Eichhorn, Denzel Snipes, my name is Scott Morgan, we're at the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us, and we're glad to have Candy on for an appearance. Fire Up is coming up next. Candy Ebling's leading the way. Good night, everybody. See you next week.